and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said in an interview aired on Sunday that he will not try to replace Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell upon taking office in January. Speaking on NBC News, Trump says he does not think he would seek to remove Powell, whose term ends in 2026. Trump added that he didn't think Powell, who has sparred with him in the past over interest rate levels, would go quietly. Trump campaigned on a promise to lower mortgage rates and other borrowing costs for U.S. households, raising the prospect that he could clash with Powell, as he did in the first term, over interest rate policy. Well, Trump said he cannot guarantee that his promised tariffs on key U.S. foreign trade partners will not raise prices for American consumers. And he suggested once more that some political rivals and federal officials who pursued legal cases against him should be imprisoned. The president-elect, in a wide-ranging interview with NBC's Meet the Press that aired Sunday, said he didn't believe economists' predictions that added costs on those imported goods for American companies would lead to higher domestic prices for consumers. He has pledged that on his first day in office in January, he would impose 25% tariff on all goods imported from Mexico and Canada unless those countries satisfactorily stop illegal immigration and the flow of illegal drugs such as fentanyl into the United States. He also has threatened tariffs on China to help force that country to crack down on fentanyl production. Trump also confirmed his plan to pardon supporters who were convicted for their roles in the riot, saying he would take that action in his first day in office. As for the idea of revenge driving potential prosecutions, Trump said he wasn't interested in that, but at the same time singled out lawmakers on a special House committee who had investigated the insurrection, Democratic Representative Benny Thompson and former Republican Representative Liz Cheney. The U.S. House of Representatives is set to vote next week on an annual defense bill that includes just over $3 billion for U.S. telecom companies to remove equipment made by Chinese telecom firms Huawei and ZTE from American wireless networks to address security risks. The 1,800-page text was released late Saturday and includes other provisions aimed at China, including requiring a report on Chinese efforts to evade U.S. national security regulations and an intelligence assessment of the current status of China's biotechnology capabilities. The Federal Communications Commission has said that removing the insecure equipment is estimated to cost $4.98 billion, but Congress previously approved only $1.9 billion for the Rip and Replace program. Washington has aggressively urged U.S. allies to purge Huawei and other Chinese gear from their wireless networks. FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel last week again called on the U.S. Congress to provide urgent additional funding, saying the program to replace equipment in the networks of 126 carriers faces a $3 billion shortfall, putting both national security and the connectivity of rural consumers who depend on these networks at risk. The U.S. government has approved the export of advanced artificial intelligence chips to a Microsoft-operated facility in the United Arab Emirates as part of the company's highly scrutinized partnership with Emirati AI firm G42. The deal, however, was scrutinized after U.S. lawmakers raised concerns that G42 could transfer powerful U.S. AI technology to China. Axios reports the approved export license requires Microsoft to prevent access to its facility in the UAE by personnel who are from other nations or from nations under U.S. arms embargoes or who are on the U.S. Bureau of Industry and Security's entity list. The restrictions cover people physically in China, the Chinese government, or personnel working for any organization headquartered in China. U.S. officials have said that AI systems could pose national security risks, including by making it easier to engineer chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. Microsoft invested $1.5 billion in G42 earlier this year, giving the U.S. company a minority stake and a board seat. Now, as part of the deal, G42 would use Microsoft's cloud services to run its AI applications. Authorities have identified the man suspected of killing United Health executive Brian Thompson. New York City Mayor Eric Adams tells the New York Post police were withholding the suspect's name for now to deny him any advantage. Authorities revealed his face in security camera photos and video released after the murder. The 50-year-old Thompson, CEO of United Health's insurance unit, was shot in the back Wednesday morning in what police described as a targeted attack by a masked assailant lying in wait. A backpack resembling the one worn by the suspect was recovered in the park. MSNBC said on Saturday that police, when examining the bag, found a jacket and Monopoly money, but no firearm. Police said they believe the suspect had left New York City after video emerged showing him climbing into a taxi that took him to a bus station. The New York police have offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the shooter, and the FBI has added $50,000 to that reward. When we come back, we'll give you updates from around Asia and the Philippines. Stay on BNC and follow the money.
At BNC, 12 noon doesn't mean break. But
good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, staunch Duterte ally Salvador Panelo believes Vice President Sara Duterte will be impeached. United Nations hailing the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Australia officially banning children under 16 from social media. And those are the news this hour. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
This is The Scorecard,
where you score the latest sports news
and in-depth views. I'm Anton Rojas.
I'm Erica Christensen.
Get ready, be prepared, get to the latest stories, updates, and reports about what's happening in the world of sports. Hosted by Anton Rojas, Erica Christensen.
Where sports is our business and business is our sport.
The Scorecard, 9:30 p.m. on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
We're doing better than we used to, but we're not doing as well as some of our neighbors. And it's like a tale of two cities. It's the best of times and the worst of times. For certain industries, it's a very good time. For certain industries, it's a non-existent time, like manufacturing. And the reason I think we're not doing as well as our neighbors, like especially Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia, and Indonesia, is because we're a manufacturing desert. Apart from the food processing industry, where we have giants like URC, Century Pacific, and Mondenisin, we export people and we import everything.
Ito po si Father Nono.
Ako po si Father Fiel Pareha.
Ako si Risa Singson Kaupeng.
Kape at pandasal na po tayo. Ito po si Cardinal Chito Tagte.
The latest news, national issues, the political scene, and conversations with prominent personalities. All these firsthand at the forefront.
It's still continuing with hearings on the EJ.
But we can recommend the filing of cases with the proper offices or agencies.
It is always victimizing the poor, so we will continue to go against corruption in the budget.
At the forefront with attorney Karen Jimeno, 8 a.m.
Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, what does the investigation cover? We tackle the issues.
The President's immunity from suit is absolute.
We clarify matters and we get on point.
Watch his press con. Sinabi niya na ayaw niya ng kudeta.
What is questionable about the AR, sir? The Vice President keeps insisting walang active threat kung hindi ako mamamatay.
Ayun na lang natin, mahirap pang pangunahan eh.
Pinky Webb, on point. bawat anggulo ng bawat issue.
9 out of 10 Filipinos ang nais na mapanagot ang mga corrupt officials.
Bawat detalye ng mga napapanahong pangyayari.
September 23 nang simula ng Israel ang air attacks sa Lebanon.
Tuloy-tuloy na ihahati hanggang Sabado at Linggo. Weekend Agenda. Sabado at Linggo, 5:30 p.m. sa BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Welcome back to Follow the Money. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol managed to avoid impeachment over the weekend by just a handful of votes, but pressure for him to step down is only intensifying. With mounting public anger in Seoul and Yoon's approval rating nearing single digit, Bloomberg reports Yoon's allies huddled on Sunday to find a way for him to quietly step aside. They want the president to go away without needing to vote for his impeachment, a move that could upset supporters and hurt the party in subsequent election. That search for a creative solution prompted Han Dong-hoon, the leader of Yoon's People Power Party, to declare on Sunday that Prime Minister Han Duck-soo would manage the nation's affairs from now on, including its security alliance with the U.S. Yonhap News reported Sunday that the South Korean prosecutor's office opened a treason investigation into Yoon over his declaration of martial law last week. If he's eventually found guilty, a process that could take months or years, he could face life in prison or even death. The political drama is roiling markets and distracting South Korea at a crucial time. The export-reliant nation faces new tariff warnings from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and increased threats to its security as North Korea strengthens its military alliance with Russia. South Korean Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok said that domestic economic uncertainty is growing due to recent domestic political situation, but that he will take all available means. Choi stressed that the government and Bank of Korea are working together to take preemptive measures to respond to volatility in the financial and foreign exchange markets, saying that there have been various disruptions in the past, but the impact on the economy has been limited.
무엇보다도 대외 신인도가 중요합니다.
Maintaining external credibility is the most important. No matter the circumstances, we will steadfastly ensure that our external credibility remains unshaken. If necessary, we will mobilize all available means and take bold and swift action in accordance with situation-specific response plans.
Meanwhile, Qatar has no concerns about U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's promise to lift the cap on liquefied natural gas exports. Qatar's Energy Minister Saad Al-Kaabi said at the Doha Forum that adding his country would cope with any competition. Kaabi is also the chief executive of state-owned Qatar Energy, said oil and gas projects were multi-decade plans and survived governments, but later added he thought Trump was good for business.
Additional gas is going to be required, whether it's from the U.S. or Qatar or other places. So additional LNG and additional competition is welcome. At the end, even if you open up LNG and say we're going to export another 300 million tons from the U.S. or 500 million tons from the U.S., all these projects are driven by private enterprises that look at the commercial viability of projects. And there is going to be a limit at which this will turn from something being viable to saying no, there is a risk that is taken if we actually proceed with this. And it will all depend on supply, demand, and the long-term outlook for these companies. So I don't worry much about it. These projects are multi-decade projects and survive governments. The most important thing is you have an excellent partnership between companies and between people, and that this is sustainable because it's a good business to business where there's mutual respect and a mutual gain on both sides. It's a win-win relationship, and if it's built on a win-win relationship and relationships, it should last any administration. I think Trump is good for business, and there is, we have dealt with President Trump's administration in the past. We have dealt with President Biden's administration, and for us, it's a relationship between the U.S. and Qatar, and an excellent relationship regardless of the administration.
Meanwhile, a new European directive setting strict ESG reporting standards for large firms operating in the EU creates challenges that make absolutely no sense for companies like Qatar Energy. The Qatari energy minister also warned Europe against requiring larger companies operating in the bloc to check if their supply chains use forced labor or cause environmental damage and act to take action if they do. Bloomberg reports the penalty can be up to 5% of a company's total worldwide revenue, adding it would have far-reaching complications and harm companies in the bloc as well as firms operating there. Kabi noted that the Qatar Investment Authority, the estimated $510 billion sovereign fund, and other institutional investors would consider investing elsewhere to avoid penalties.
QIA, Qatar Investment Authority, any sovereign fund, any fund manager around the world would be looking at companies that they currently own. This will be put in place in 27, by the way. So companies that we own, as QIA owns some companies, or a company that we're looking to buy, and say, will they be penalized by 5% at some point? And in that case, should I pull my investment out of EU, or should I actually not invest and look at another company that is in another country and invest there? It will make you, I think, be shocked, as the penalty can be up to 5% of your total generated revenue worldwide. So the EU can penalize Qatar Energy for not being compliant with one of these things with my worldwide sales revenue to the world. So it makes absolutely no sense. So to me, my message to Europe and to the EU Commission is that, are you telling us, I don't want your LNG into the EU? Because I'm not going to supply EU with LNG to support their requirements for energy and then be penalized with my total revenue worldwide going to EU.
Here at home, President Marcos is set to sign the amendments to the Agricultural Tariffication Act of 1996 today. Through these amendments, Senate President Francis Escudero expects rice farmers to get a boost in their production with greater support from the government in the provision of farm machinery and equipment, free distribution of seeds, and other interventions. The law extends the life of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, sourced from tariffs collected from the importation of rice, until 2013. The Senate President adds an increase in the annual allocation to the RCEF will also be instituted from the current 10 billion pesos to 30 billion until 2031. Well, the Department of Agriculture is launching its Rice for All program this week, making affordable rice available at MRT and LRT stations. Rice will be sold in 5 kilogram and 10 kilogram packs with no purchase limits, giving consumers more flexibility. Looking ahead, the DA plans to introduce 2 new rice varieties, Sulit rice and Nutri rice, next year. These are expected to be sold at lower prices to help families deal with rising costs. Just last week, the DA started selling well-milled rice at 40 pesos per kilo in Kadiwa ng Pangulo kiosks across Metro Manila. This program targets the persistently high rice prices despite reduced tariff rates. It aims to provide relief to Filipino households while tackling the challenge of food supply stability. Singapore-based Growthium Capital Partners will invest 7 billion pesos in Philippine cold storage provider Mets Logistics. Bloomberg reports Growthium is backing an industry that the Southeast Asian nation sees as crucial in securing food supply. Statements from the companies on Monday say the investment from Singapore-based GCP will help Mets Logistics grow its network of facilities in the Philippines, where it's already a key player. Now, as part of the deal, Mets Logistics founding shareholders will also invest an additional 500 million pesos in the company. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration has made food security a priority, one of Asia's fastest-growing economies. Private investments in warehouses, cold chains, and cold storage facilities are critical and ensuring food supply to stabilize prices, according to the country's Economic Planning Agency. U.S. TikTok users spent heavily to buy merchandise from a range of vendors on the e-commerce platform's TikTok Shop so far this holiday shopping season. TikTok Shop said in a press release in late November that its sales had reached $100 million on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, when bargain-hunting American consumers spent heavily online. Previously, it said the number of people purchasing goods on TikTok Shop each month had nearly tripled. Reuters could not immediately verify its claims. A Reuters analysis of spending patterns measured by data from Factious show, though, that patterns show that TikTok Shop, which launched in the U.S. in September last year, has likely gained market share in e-commerce at a critical moment. TikTok Shop serves as an e-commerce channel for major brands such as Elf Cosmetics and Ninja Kitchen, among other products. A U.S. federal appeals court on Friday upheld a law requiring Chinese-based ByteDance to divest TikTok in the U.S. by early next year or face a ban. A ban of the popular short video app, if it happens, could extend to TikTok Shop as well. Meanwhile, TikTok advertisers were in no rush to shift their marketing budgets after the court decision, citing TikTok's continued survival despite years of threats. The ban on TikTok's U.S. assets by January 19 jeopardizes billions in ad revenue. TikTok's U.S. ad revenue is expected to reach $12.3 billion this year, according to estimates from research firm eMarketer. By comparison, analysts on average expect Meta Platforms' advertising revenue in 2024 to reach $159 billion, according to LSEG data. Like its rivals Shein and Temu, TikTok Shop showcases merchandise from third-party vendors, some of which ships from China, competing fiercely on price. Each of the platforms have tried to lure more U.S. sellers with lower fees to help with shipping speeds. Meanwhile, American content creators on TikTok have begun asking followers to subscribe to their channels on rival platforms like Meta-owned Instagram and Alphabet's YouTube, after the court decision that could see the social media app banned if it is not sold to a U.S.-based company by January 19. Meanwhile, Hollywood star Michael Douglas has accused Silicon Valley of dumbing down the movie business. The actor and film producer bemoaned the ever-increasing influence of streaming platforms such as Apple, Amazon, and Netflix, who can afford so much, especially with digital technology. Douglas compared it to the 1970s when filmmakers retained control over the production process while studios only focused in the distribution process. He admitted the biggest change of his life and career have been digital, especially sound production. Douglas recently lent his voice to the Netflix animated film Green Eggs and Ham. Finally, a French chocolate maker has set out on a monumental endeavor and built an almost meter-high replica of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris ahead of its reopening. Christophe Lermite and his team spent 250 hours building the 60-kilogram and 35-inch structure. The miniature cathedral is made entirely of chocolate and was built using machines to carve the most sensitive details. For Lermite, the project came as both a challenge and a vibrant homage to French architecture.
L'inauguration de Notre-Dame arrivait et on s'est dit pourquoi.
Everything is chocolate. There is no support to consolidate, it is very fragile. It is made of 4 pieces and it is dark chocolate, 70% cocoa, without soy lecithin, pure cocoa butter. This is the chocolate we use to make all our chocolates in this company. This is about continuing to celebrate, to highlight French heritage. We did the Eiffel Tower, now Notre Dame, it's highlighting French know-how, French heritage. So cock-a-doodle-doo.
And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching, and keep it here on BNC, the Billionaire News channel, always on top.